Hello, I'm Alison.
And I'm Fran, and we're Eximious Alliance, and we're passionate about change and improvement.
So welcome to our podcast. Today we're going to be chatting with Andy and Chris from Greyhound IT about their business journey and about some of the work that we've been doing together recently to support the growth of their business through our Business Ally programme.
So welcome, Chris and Andy.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure. So first of all, to get started, can you tell us a little bit about how your business started and your journey so far?
Yeah, so I've started my career in IT from an apprenticeship for 13 years ago now. And from that, I've worked my way up from first line, second line, third line, gathered loads of experience and knowledge, and I got to a point where I think I'm really good at doing the tech side and the salesy side of IT. So from that, I thought, why don't I have a crack at it, see if I could make a successful business? Because we all have an idea. Sometimes just having that leap of faith stops us.
Yeah.
So I took the leap.
Well done.
And it was, it was an interesting first month, really, in that, because I got all this knowledge to give, and I knew what businesses wanted in terms of, yes, we're a tech company, but the forefront tech matters, but it doesn't matter. It's the customer service that is the most critical part, especially in the MSP space. I've really excelled at that, and that's what I put in the forefront of the business. And from the Greyhound IT was born from that, and it's been really good so far for what we're doing, from you standard day-to-day, looking after people, looking after their computer systems, and also doing projects for them to boost the IT systems from where they currently are to somewhere different, somewhere far, where they become more efficient, more profitable in their endeavours. Because if you have slow systems, inefficiency creeps in, and that's the stuff where we come in and fix that for people. And I've recently taken my colleague next to me, Chris, as a director.
Brilliant. So Chris, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. I started off as a developer and then found that actually I enjoyed talking with people, which is a strange attribute for a developer, and moved across into pre-sales and a little bit of that, systems administration, and lots of different things actually. And then kind of ended up as IT director for an international charity and set a team up about that. When I moved on from that, I decided actually I wanted to bring my skills back to a more regional, local area. And I set up a consultancy and managed IT services company. And Andy and I then met up, and we actually found that we had very similar goals and ideals, and looking after people, and the technology would then follow using those skills. And that's where we've ended up merging, and we're now running as Greyhound IT.
What do you think were some of the kind of key turning points along the journey that you've been on? I
mean, I had my first bit of resilience in the first month of my starting the journey of the business. I took the big life change of starting the business, and then 2 weeks later, suddenly to get told, be handed a pregnancy test saying, "Oh, you're going to be a dad," and I'm there just thinking, "Oh, okay, this is interesting." Not only a massive milestone, but also another big life change. And I was like fretting over it, because it's hard starting a business. For one, I appreciate anyone who takes the dive to do their own business, because it's so hard and scary, because there's no safety net. And doing that plunge, then having a plunge of a little human to look after is terrifying. And that's when I was fretting over it and thinking about, will I be able to build the business up rapidly enough to have enough income coming through the door? At that moment, it was my wife Sophie holding everything together in terms of finance. And luckily I persevered, and it's worked so well. So for anyone who's listening to that and do want to do the dive, I recommend doing it. And when you do face these hardships, they can be overcome. And that is one of the key points of running a business. You've got to overtake the bad times, and the good times will come. Then I think the next turning point is being mentored. So before I took the plunge and started my business, I used to work for a business many years ago, digital media infrastructure. Directors were Nick Sumner and Ian Kilner, and them two, I'm still in touch with them today, and they're helped me with any questions because they had the experience of running a business where I've only had experience running sales and the tech side.
Okay.
And that was such another key moment for me where I can just rely on other business leaders and get their expertise and knowledge.
Yeah. So having a network of allies really that you can call on,
like a business of allies.
Yeah, I'd second that absolutely. Before I set up my own business, I went on a training course, if you like, Strive, and it was all about helping people to look at how you can set up your own business as pretty much as a one-person organisation, and that was amazing. And then talking with other people who set up their own businesses successfully and run them. Some were retired, some were still doing it. It was really interesting to hear their perspectives, and they say, "Yeah, you're doing okay. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that?" It is, as Andy's saying, it's really, really hard to set up your own business successfully and run that.
Yes.
But as in terms of a key turning point, I think actually the merger that we've got and the fact that we're working together has been absolutely amazing. That I'm waking up each morning and thinking, yes, this is great, this is fantastic. And when you get yourself in a situation, actually, it's really nice to have someone that you can talk to. We can discuss things together rather than you having to solve every single problem yourself. Absolutely amazing.
I mean, one of the that continue from that, I think that key turning point when we met at Connect Over a Cuppa, co-labs in Harrogate, because not only us two met, we met Alison and Fran as well.
We all met at Connect Over a Cuppa, didn't we?
And again, that seemed like another turning point in the business for us, because it allowed, like Chris said, the merger to happen, and jointly going from 2 one-man bands to a 2-man business. It's very empowering, and it gives us more expertise. Because Chris comes from, how many years of experience do you have?
A number of years.
You don't want to put a number to that, do you?
Well, put it this way, it's over 30, isn't it?
And I love that excitement, because I remember when we did the workshop with you, Chris, I remember you saying, I wake up every morning and I feel excited about what I'm going to be doing today.
Yes, it's been a transformation on that. It absolutely has.
Yeah.
I mean, that was quite interesting from that, Alison, because when you had all them pictures laid out for us to choose from, Chris chose the happy, excited ones. I chose like the going to space. One, because I like space, and 2, I can envision that going to space. But I think that was a cool exercise, because you kind of got a feel for our personalities, in how we feel internally about ourselves.
Yeah.
So before we, or when we initially started working with you, you completed Unlock Your Business Brilliance, which is our questionnaire, which I think sparked some thoughts for you. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I remember you were telling us it was going to be an hour coffee, and somehow, how many coffees did it turn to, Chris? 5?
It was quite a long time, because we started off trying to give you unified answers, and I think that broke down by about the 3rd question. And we ended up, both of us, thinking about the questions and then coming back and saying, well, I think this, and Andy was saying, I think that, the other. And what we saw was that they were allied, and they were in the same direction, but with different perspectives on those. Absolutely.
I think it definitely showed our different thought process in the business, how we run the business and how we see where the business is going. I think that was very interesting, because we never really had them conversation when we spoke about the merger, even though all our vision and missions and everything aligned.
We certainly agree with where we're going, but how we're going to get there and the processes we've got, I think, are a little bit different. And I'm finding that really valuable, because not all of my ideas are absolutely spot on. Not of your ideas are spot on, but together we're getting a really good journey here.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, so that was what you were talking about there, was the pre-workshop questionnaire that we did with you where I think we suggested it takes about an hour, and you said it was several coffees, but it was a really helpful process to kind of bring those thoughts together. Before completing that, you completed our Unlock Your Business Brilliance tool, which is it takes 2 or 3 minutes, slightly longer for some people, slightly less for others. And you completed that separately. Do you want to tell us about your reflections on that? Because I know you had some differences on those, didn't you?
Yeah, it was, I think what came out of it, I'm very ambitious. Chris is the very grounded version of us two, which is good to have. We're in 2 different personalities, but it again highlighted I want to do this, Chris wants to do that. Then we kind of sit down and spoke about it, and then it kind of evolved us bringing it all together, which was very interesting. Yeah. And again, a more thought-provoking question, because you don't have these questions when you're just sitting down over a coffee, because you're not getting asked these questions, and it leads to more business development than people think.
That was the really interesting thing from us, from the other side of the fence, was hearing how the tools that we developed had really helped your thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And in the Business Ally programme, we have the workshop, which you went through. And in that, we have our 3R framework. So review, reframe and refocus. How has that framework helped you or influenced your thinking so far?
I mean, the way you guys did it for us, we had everything typed up, what our mission is, what our vision is. And having that, you guys put that on a board for us to visually see, again, changes everything. It was very empowering to see what is Greyhound IT. Because someone asks me, what is Greyhound IT? I can tell them what we stand for and what our ethos is. But then seeing it on a board, it changes things in perspective for us. And we spent a good time working on the mission on the board. Don't you agree, Chris?
I think so, absolutely. It brings it into focus. So rather than it just being a general, we want to look after people and we'll look after their managed IT, it's actually bringing that into sharp focus and tightening it up with us.
But during the review on the vision, we spent a hell of a lot of time debating it, which was, again, showing our different ideals and having that really intense review. Again, we're not at each other's throats doing it. It was a very productive thing to do, because our goals, yes, they are aligned, but having it in a really productive conversation changes things.
I think one thing that we'd noticed when you'd obviously done Unlock Your Business Brilliance and the pre-workshop questionnaire, and you'd sent us some other bits of information as well, so your brochure and obviously we'd looked at your website. Actually, there was quite a few times where you'd said what your vision and mission were, but slightly differently, and it was coming at it from a slightly different thing. So I think for me, it was like pulling all that together and then going, okay, let's distill this.
Yeah. And one of the things that we purposefully did in the workshop that you'll have noticed is we kind of gave you time to go for a walk and reflect on that. And I think that's because we've both done kind of creative thinking workshops. We know the value of walking and talking ourselves. So some of our best ideas, in fact, the Business Ally programme was born on a walk and talk session that we did. How did you find that, building in that space to go for a walk and kind of talk through what we'd done so far so that you could then progress it?
I found it really unexpected and quite strange. All right, go for a walk and have a chat. It kind of threw me a little bit, but actually, once we got out of the room, we're out of the building, we're walking around. It was a really, really interesting opportunity time to come in the middle of the workshop and to actually have a chance for the two of us to have a talk and a bit of a think as we're walking around, and I found that immensely helpful.
Oh, good.
I mean, we really dig down, didn't we, during that walk? I mean, we got our coffees first to get our brains working again, because it was a really intense activity on the brain. Because again, you're not really thinking about things from your day to day, and then when you're faced with it, it's like, oh my god, becomes a lot more clearer, and having that conversation pushed us further and saying this is what we want to achieve in our vision, and it allows us to digest it. And it was a very interesting conversation and very productive to have that moment.
Good. And that was our intention, because as you say, it was quite an intense session. We were covering quite a lot. So we were starting with your mission and vision. We were helping you to pull out what your vitally important goals are for your organisation. And then we were starting to talk about measurement and how you might measure that in your organisation, as well as doing some prioritisation so that you've got that plan to take away from the workshop. So there's an awful lot to do. And I think it's just from our own experience of sitting in workshops where it can feel quite heavy and your brain sort of slows down. So having that space to walk and talk just kind of frees you up to think a little bit differently. So it's really good to get that kind of validation that's how it worked for you.
I think people, when they're going out and running a business, they don't really put much thought into it. You can just get into the flow day to day. But having that moment to break away from it, or having all your ideas on the board and taking it away, I think it's very empowering for a business to have.
Yeah.
And it leads to really positive change, real world change in a business.
I found it really useful with the way that you were challenging us with the ideas. So we're putting Post-its up on sections of paper up on the wall, and you're coming back and saying, what about this one? What about that one? Do you really want this one here? Does that not perhaps belong over there? And then having to justify why we put a piece of paper here rather than there, and sometimes thinking, actually, no, you're right to challenge that, and no, let's move it across here. I found that really helpful, because you don't get that. You don't get that level of being challenged, or we're not getting that level of being challenged on these kind of things. Yes, we'll argue with each other on technology, because that's what we do. That's what we're good at, and we both understand where we're at. But for these other areas, the running the business, which is, to be honest, it's not the thing that I've grown up doing. That's actually been really helpful indeed.
Yeah.
So Chris, you were talking about the difference between working in the business, I guess, those technical things that you do for other people, and working on the business. How important is that for you? And is that kind of a new thing for you as a company, or is it something you've been trying to do but found difficult?
Certainly, when you're running your own business, you have to do a little bit of everything. You have to remember to sort the finance out, because otherwise the world doesn't go round for you. And you have to think about legal for insurance and bits like that. And then there's marketing, because otherwise people don't know that your organisation exists and what skills that you've got. And all of these extra bits around the side, which you haven't had experience in necessarily before, to have to work on those. That's been really challenging, and I've actually found it really helpful working with Andy on that, because he's got, I think it's probably fair to say, he's got a similar situation. The technology, absolutely solid on that, but these other bits are all new. So having someone else to work with on that has been helpful, because you can both remind each other to do marketing or insurance or whatever. But to actually then have your business ally program come in, and you're working and saying, well, what about prioritizing this? What are your goals? What are you actually needing to achieve? How are you going to prioritize all this? And that brings it all into sharp relief. And going away with an action plan that isn't just talking over a coffee, but has actually got some concrete results that have come out of that. I'm finding that really helpful.
I mean, to go back to the review process and following what Chris was saying, one of the interesting things, when we did the photos, I picked the space one because for the ambition, but I picked the hacker guy with the mask on. Not saying I'm a hacker. But that reference to me was the imposter syndrome, which is a really big thing in IT, because IT is such a wide range of technologies. You do feel like an imposter sometimes. And running your own business with no experience, you get the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I think having the supportive nature of you challenging us, asking us some really thought-provoking questions helps a lot. It kind of removes saying like, yeah, we are doing this right. We are on track of being, business leaders. Yeah. Which is, again, I love having that feeling like, yes, I'm doing something right. I know I'm doing this right. And be able to sit down with Chris and say, we're doing this right. And for him to feel the same way is a really positive thing. And it's the business ally, I think, to me, it's not about making change. It's also feeling that supportive nature from you guys, which is a big thing for, I think, in anyone in business, they like to have that support, that little safety net, just to fall back on and say, I don't know what I'm doing here. I need to talk to someone. And I feel like that's just fantastic to have.
Yeah, that's great. Because I think nobody knows everything, do they? So it's about
you can't possibly.
Precisely, yes. So it's about uncovering sometimes whether those things where perhaps you thought, I thought I was doing all right, but actually there's some improvements to be made there, or I need to find some external help to bolster what we're doing.
So following the workshop then, so we talked about how we took you through the process and you came away from that workshop with a plan that we kind of co-created and reflected your priorities. So what are the key areas of the business that you're focusing on in the coming weeks and months, and how are you leveraging those for growth and improvement?
I think having the framework, so the framework to me is one of the biggest things to have in the business. So our processes and procedures, how we're going to run the business, how it's going to function. Because the idea in later down the road is to have staff following these procedures. Because if it's in our mindset, in both mine and Chris's, they should be able to run the business without us by having key members of staff. And which that allow me and Chris to move away from working for the business and work on the business to grow it into its next stage of its evolution and become more bigger and better.
So it's setting the foundations for that growth.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And another thing, what was the other thing, Chris? Time tracking was another big thing.
Yes, we're looking at time tracking and also the way of grouping our in their help desk and in IT situation. People submit requests and we turn those into tickets so that we can track what's going on. And one of the things that we've looked at in terms of a KPI is to group the tickets together so that if it's about people at a trivial level, how many people have forgotten their password or how many people have got problems with printing or these various different groups, group those together. And then we can look at back and then we can say, well, actually we're spending, 20% of our time resolving this type of issue and 30% of our time resolving that type of issue. What automation can we put in place to make that a faster response for our clients, and also to take away the manual input that is causing the delays from ourselves as well.
I remember we talked about that in the workshop as being the kind of that data collection, so that you've got a baseline to then identify opportunities for improvement, so you can see where you're spending most of your time, and you can focus your improvement efforts there where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, really.
Absolutely, yes.
So tell us about your kind of longer term plans. You've talked there about some of the immediate things which you're on your roadmap. What about your longer term plans? Where you heading?
To answer with my ambitious goals, that is the question. I think. Should
we say medium term?
Let's do medium term. I think one of the big goals for me is to have staff members. I want. An interesting thing came out of the Business Ally thing. It wasn't about process. It wasn't about our customer service or anything. One of the things was about culture. What sort of culture do we want to create for our business internally? And one of the things is, and Chris wrote it on the board, and I thought it was a fantastic thing to write on. Smiley, happy customers, also smiley, happy staff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how do we get that? What as a business leader, what would we want if we worked for someone else? And I want to foster a culture where I want staff to come in excited, raring to go, wanting to improve on themselves, but also improve on our business. And I think through that, we'll have longevity in the business, because one of the biggest issues running an IT business is knowledge. And retaining knowledge is such a critical thing. You can have all the information typed out and everything, but having key people in the business with that knowledge makes a world of difference. And that's one of the things we aspire to, is to have long-term staff with good knowledge, but to also build on top of it as well, so they become far more better. And I think that's when again it'll be another conversation with Eximious, because that'll be a different stage of our evolution in the business, because as things change, our requirements change. I think having a different, in terms of the Ally business program, I think that'd be a critical thing for us to have in that journey. Would you say the same, Chris, on that for culture?
I think culture is vitally important. Yeah.
And we talked about building that now. So there's just two of you now, but the building of that culture doesn't happen by accident. It needs to be mindful and start from the beginning.
And it's something that didn't really occur to us. Maybe it was on a subconscious level for us, but how we speak to each other, we have friendly chats every morning, because it's like our positivity and how we're going to tackle the day. That's what I want people to have, that positivity coming in and just let's tackle the day and have success. And that's what gets me out of the bed every day.
Brilliant.
Sorry, go on.
You just said there about maybe that was in our our heads, but it hadn't actually come out. And Chris, at the end of the workshop, you said about again, we looked at the cards, didn't we? And you chose the open lock and said this has really unlocked ideas.
Yes, Andy and I have got lots of ideas, and it's trying to prioritise those. Could we do this? Could we branch out into that? Could we do the other? How many of these can we do at once? Well, actually, we've got to concentrate on our core business right now, because there are only the two of us, and we've got to make sure that we do that really well, because without that, we haven't got solid, proper foundations.
Yes.
And looking at that and the vitally important goals and the prioritisations actually helped us really well. It certainly helped me being able to turn a sea of ideas, a whole load of different areas that we could explore and maybe we could branch into a realistic, plannable, measurable set of goals that we can aim for, achieve, and move on step by step.
That's brilliant.
So I actually found that really helpful, and I think that is what my open padlock picture really summarised for me.
Brilliant.
I was going to say, we keep talking about these pictures. Maybe we should explain what they are.
Yeah, we should have brought them along.
We should have brought them along, yeah. Can you remember what they're called?
No.
Okay, so...
Can't remember what they're called.
It's a technique that we'd experienced in a workshop, and we'd found it really powerful. And so it's great to hear that you really enjoyed it as well. It's essentially a series of pictures on, I think they're on A4... A3 cards?
A5
yeah,
cards. A deck of A5 cards, a series of images designed to emote some kind of emotion.
Prompt some kind of emotion, or prompt
designed
thoughts.
To prompt thoughts, to prompt emotion. And I think they're quite a powerful tool. Sometimes we use words a lot. We write words, we say words, and actually a picture can tell 1,000 words, can't it?
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you see people choose a picture that actually what I might think that means might be something different to you slightly. So it's nice to have the words around it, but actually I think those pictures themselves do speak things which are hard sometimes to put into words.
I found them quite challenging, interestingly, excitingly challenging, but challenging because I don't think in pictures. I think more words.
Okay.
And so having to turn my words and find a picture, I recall, I think I chose 3 or 4 pictures, and I then started eliminating pictures rather than going for the picture that solved it all up. I had to select several and then eliminate the ones that didn't quite say what I wanted, and I found that really interesting actually as a way of trying to reframe what's going around in my head in a different way.
I mean, my approach was different. I emptied my head. I went on gut feeling, because if I was to think how I feel, I don't think I would have chose any picture. But if I felt what I on my gut, how I was feeling that second I think you did ask us a question before we chose a picture. I
said, choose one picture which is how you're feeling today, and the second picture was how you were feeling about the business today.
I think that was really good prompt. I just emptied my mind. I just went on, that's how I feel today. That's how I feel about the business.
Yeah, you grabbed them really fast, actually, didn't you? That's me going, oh my goodness, well, I've got 3 here for that choice and 2 here for that choice.
Do you notice I was just levitating a little bit? I was in my Zen moment.
But that's interesting, isn't it? Because similar to the Unlock Your Business Brilliance, we looked at the timings of that. And I think, Andy, you'd done yours in maybe less than 2 minutes. Chris, you'd taken over 7 minutes to do yours. So I think there's that... insight into how you guys work. So you're perhaps a more instant thinker, a gut thinker, very much like me. I'm kind of like that as well. And you're perhaps more of a reflector, Chris, which actually bringing those 2 different mindsets together is really helpful.
Yeah, and it's a real strength in a business to have those 2 different approaches and different ways of doing
I don't like
things.
being pressed for an answer.
No.
Like that.
No.
I like to consider. I'll certainly say that.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you find that a strength in your business that you have those 2 different ways of thinking?
So if I come across like a technological issue that I'm facing, I would look at it, do my backward. So the way I solve issues, I work backwards against it, and I always come up with the answer in the end when I faced it. And it's good when if I hit a roadblock where I think I've gone back enough, but I'm just not solving it, I can reflect with Chris on it, because he takes his time against it, where I can quickly analyse it and break it all down. Chris reflects on it and asks some very prompt questions on it, which then makes you think, oh, that's another way to look at it. And I think it is a massive strength to have. One, because Chris has got far more experience than me in IT, over 30 years, while I got my measly 13 years. But you don't look like a day over 21.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's the sum of the parts, so you've got 43 between, which is quite a lot.
So it's just nice for someone to reflect on my answers and say, yeah, you're on the right track, Andy, that looks really good. Or maybe we do it a different way, because he's just taking his time on it, where that's how I function, that's how I work, that's how my brain works.
So actually bringing those 43 years together and those two different styles of thinking actually makes you greater than the sum of your parts.
I mean, it goes with our tagline.
Yeah.
Fast and reliable service, our Greyhound tag is.
So you've been working with us for a short while now, and we're always striving to provide more value. So can you just tell us about how your experience has been so far?
Exceeded all expectations. So when we came to it, we did have, some expectation of what we might be facing, which then obviously got exceeded, because that 1 hour coffee turned into 5 hour coffee, and that brain melting session of having to review and ask us having these thought provoking questions. I think without you, there was a path we were going to go down, but we were plateaued in success. I feel like because you're given these new ideas, these new thought-provoking questions that we've talked about very in-depth internally, will set us to go curve. The success in the business will curve. I think that's what you've helped us achieve, and that's only at a starting point.
Yeah, brilliant.
Further down the road, things will dramatically change for our business, and as we become more successful, as we evolve, you're there as a business ally to come in and help us in each stages of our journey. I just think that's amazing to have.
Fabulous.
What I found really interesting from it is the way that you're saying, okay, now we've got to check in here. So what have you done with this? What have you done with that? And to actually keep on track, because being inside the business at the minute is busy. It's really busy.
Yeah.
And actually to be reminded that you've got to step outside of that to take the business moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm finding that really helpful, and just being challenged. So I can't just let it slip.
Great. And that was kind of our intent when we designed the programme, is that we would help you to hold yourselves to account for the plan that you'd developed.
We often think about it in terms of like personal trainers.
Yeah.
But of course, we're not going to the gym here. We're working on our business, and I think that's.
I mean, you say you're getting our brain muscles.
Yes,
working.
yeah, get your brain muscles working.
Your business muscles working.
The first time that businesses might encounter us often is through Unlock Your Business Brilliance. So that's the tool that we've developed, which is really quick and easy to fill in. Ask those thought-provoking questions that you talked about, Andy, and helps them and gives advice and guidance really around change and improvement, and gives them some actionable stuff that they can take away there and then. So that's often the first step.
Did you? So there's a report which comes out of Unlock Your Business Brilliance. Did you read that and find that helpful?
Yeah, that was helpful because it broke stuff down for us a little bit. So I think that's where the idea of expectation came from.
Okay.
This is what it says on the paper, but then going into it is a whole different thing.
So it gives you an idea of what to expect.
Yeah.
And then the next step, so when an organisation like yourself signs up with the Business Ally programme, we send them our pre-workshop questionnaire, and that's the one where you said it took 5 coffees to go through, and you'd worked on it separately, but then you'd come together to put your own answers into there. So there's the pre-workshop questionnaire, and then we had a validation conversation with you where we went through that. Now, we found that really helpful to kind of get under the skin of some of the answers that you've given us, just to clarify some of our thoughts around what you were telling us, and also to help us to work out and agree with you what the focus of the workshop would be. In terms of, from your point of view, how did that validation conversation feel?
I think it's really helpful to have someone repeating back in their words what it is that you think you've put down, because actually it helps crystallize out whether what you've written down is actually what you're thinking. And that was useful.
Okay, great.
I mean, I agree with Chris on that. It just that validation and sitting down and talking to someone about your business outside of the business, I think it's fantastic to have.
And that pre-workshop questionnaire is designed to be quite holistic, so it takes you through lots of different areas of the business, so people, process, technology, marketing, finance, legal. Did you find it helpful to kind of look at things holistically?
Yes, absolutely. It was also quite interesting, I think, where we were being asked to score how well established or set up we were and competent in the particular areas. And in some areas we were scoring ourselves, 5 out of 5. Other areas we're looking and thinking 2 out of 5. And we knew that we absolutely were not experts in that area and needed some support on that. And it was very good to have it written down, if you like, to actually make us think about these. It's not something you can skate over and think, I'll worry about that next week, but to actually have to answer it there and then.
I think it's just nice just being vulnerable about your business, because no one will ever be vulnerable to other people in business, because they are, I'm roaring success. I made my 10 million last week. Great for you, but what challenges do you have? And people don't really talk about the challenges. And I think having that ability to say we're great at technology, it's what we do, it's been our career path for many years, but then say, yes, I'm good at sales, I'm not good at marketing, I don't know everything in other parts of the business, and just having that vulnerability and the guidance on it, it'll empower the business to be far more successful without it.
I think like you say, it's difficult to talk about the things you're not so good at, or the things that you've perhaps made a mistake on, or you're kind of just going, we'll think about that next week because it's too difficult because we don't really understand it. So
it becomes a bit of a therapy session for business.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's good to have just to reset the mind and just be honest.
And it was really helpful for us, because if you recall, we're asking you in those different areas about how capable or confident you felt, but also how important that area of the business was for you, and how urgent it was for you to work on those. And that helped us to build a map of what's going on in your business, what's important, and it helps to start to build out some of those priorities that we then built on in the Business Ally workshop. So if we move on to the next step in the programme, which is the half-day workshop, which we ran with you, and so using the priorities that we established in that pre-workshop validation conversation, we built out a bespoke half-day workshop for you. And no two workshop will be the same. So the principles are the same, but we've got different tools, techniques, kind of modules that we can bring in depending on what the challenges the business is facing.
So following the workshop, we've co-created that plan with you. We touched on a little bit earlier about helping you keep to account. So we have the weekly check-ins, and then we've got a monthly support session as well. How useful do you think that's going to be for you?
I think it's just nice having someone to be an accountability buddy. I think is the best way to describe it.
Accountability buddy.
Because we all get into the nitty gritty of business. It takes over, and you just forget about you push everything else to the side. Then it's having someone check in saying, "Have you done this?" Like, oh crap, I need to do this, and it refocuses you. And then going back to your 3 hours, it refocuses what's critical in the business and not let it drift. So I think it's nice having that. It's another supported aspect of Eximious, and it's help us to realign our goals again and just sit down and say, right, we need to review this and make sure we get this done and set expectations in our business and goals. Yeah,
and hopefully as you get further down the programme, it won't be such a, oh, crikey, I've got to do that, so let me do all my things on a Friday afternoon. And actually it becomes, coming back to that personal training, it becomes a change of lifestyle, if you like. So actually this is what I do. These are the things that I've got to achieve this week.
And that's about booking time into one's calendar and making sure that it's actually in there as a as a decision, I will put an hour in here. I'll put an hour in here, and I'll do that as part of my working week, rather than it being the Friday afternoon. Oops, I've forgotten scenario.
Great, brilliant. And the monthly support sessions. So that's where we can actually spend an hour. Again. Not just saying what have you done and doing that reminder, but actually perhaps working on something where you've become a bit stuck, or perhaps exploring something in a bit more detail. Are you looking forward to those? And
absolutely, I can't wait to see what happens down the road. So it's going to be it's an exciting journey, I think, is the best way to put it.
Great,
absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to those.
Great.
I don't think it's going to be an easy ride. I think you're going to make sure that we actually are pulling our weight and doing what we're supposed to do. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. And I know, Chris, you and I have talked about KPIs and measurement for improvement being something that you're wanting to pick up in those sessions, which we're really looking forward to as well, because the whole focus on improvement rather than just change is kind of what we feel really passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, changing for the sake of change. Well, okay, so it's red this week and it's green next week. That doesn't really benefit anybody anywhere, really. It's about the improvement, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Brilliant.
So the vision statement that we worked on in the session, what we came out with was you want to be the IT partner you can always trust, providing forward-thinking solutions that help your business grow. So tell us a little bit more around that.
So people who use technology know how to use it, but when it goes wrong, they just like flap around. It's like, how do we get it working? And that's where we want to come in, where we get all these issues sorted, but then we push it further. And it's not about pushing the tech further, it's about getting people comfortable with it and because people matter first, not technology.
Technology is a tool. Everybody has to use technology. Everybody has a computer, and when it works fine, it's absolutely fine, and people can get on with what they're doing. The problem comes when something goes wrong and it doesn't work, and it's outside people's experience, and the tool is broken. And we can be there. We can be alongside businesses to help them achieve what they're trying to achieve by taking the pain points away from them. Yeah. And some of that is about making sure that the systems don't go wrong by proactively addressing issues before they become problems. And part of it is actually saying, well, yes, IT is a cost center, you're spending this, but actually no, turn it around. It's not a cost center. It's about what can IT do to help your business move forward faster, better and further. And at that point, IT ceases to be a cost center. It's an investment. And I think that's vitally important, and that's what we can offer as Greyhound IT.
Brilliant. And you talk about trust a lot in there, and you mentioned earlier about your culture and of happy people, both internally and externally. How important is that to you?
Trust is absolutely vitally important. IT has its fingers in every part of the business, and if you can't trust the people who are doing your IT, then you're onto a loser straight away. It's absolutely vital. We want to be there so that people can contact us no matter what the issue is. We're not going to laugh at them and say, well, that was a bit stupid, wasn't it? And we're actually going to turn around and say, okay, fine, let's get the tool working again for you so that you can achieve your aims for whatever it is you need to do right now.
Maybe if we take it even further, it's the people that matter to us, not the technology. So I want people to be able to speak to us on a really personal level, saying, and be friendly with us, because we can do tech, but we want people to feel really happy they can ring us and have a chat with us.
So it's important that your clients know you.
It's a really, because in many places I've worked into, when people ring up the IT company, they're talking to a faceless entity in my eyes, and I don't want that. I want us to know both myself and Chris, and further down the line to know all my staff, our staff, shall I say. It's a really critical point, because I have many conversations with business leaders. I do have a set of questions I do normally ask, like, what's your biggest gripe about IT? What's your biggest headache? What would you change? And a lot of the questions come out saying, I don't really know the person. I don't really know who's fixing my issue. And I feel like that was one of the founding ideas when starting Greyhound IT. I want people to know us. I want us to trust us. I want us to be just that person you speak to, and just like, oh, I know that person. I know that person I can recommend on, because they got the trust, they know what we do, and they like it.
Yeah. And I think the thing that was great for me in the workshop was seeing the two of you come together and develop this joint vision around being recognised in Yorkshire as a trustworthy IT company. And I love the idea that you came up with, that you make technology work for your clients, not the other way around. So it's like you were really keen to say, we make technology work for you.
Absolutely. It's about making sure that IT can help the business move forward in the way that finance helps the business move forward, and operations helps it move forward. It's not just, it's IT again, we're going to pay another chunk of money.
It's tools to develop the business.
It's tools. It's about making sure that the business can move forward.
Yeah, brilliant.
And there's stuff out there that we looked into for people. I've helped people increase their lead generation by using IT. I was thinking, I've got this person in to fix my IT, it's a cost centre. No, have you ever seen this tool before? And they're like, we've never seen this, how could it work for us? And we've got to explore. I mean, I'm in talks at the moment using AI to reduce the person's time. Because it's one-man band at the moment, but using AI to reduce his load by 30%. So it gives him more time to focus on his current projects and maybe expand more. And so IT should never be viewed as a cost centre. Even it does have inherently, it is a cost centre. It can just transform a business if done correctly.
Brilliant. We had our prep call the other day. We talked about the difference kind of before you started working with Eximious and now that you are working with Eximious Alliance.
I think I touched on it a little bit, but it was like we had the path that we'll go down as through discussions when me and Chris met, when the businesses merged. We said we wanted to achieve this, and these are our goals, and this is how we're going to get to it, both from a commercial aspect, marketing aspect, and financial aspect. Then with the introduction of Eximious into this, it's changed that path altogether for us. One, made the path clearer for us and added brand new ideas. So we need to get these core ideas nailed down and sorted, which allows us to become a bit more efficient and more lean to explore new ideas and potentially make the business far more profitable than without you.
So you're building some really good foundations.
Fantastic. So we're Eximious Alliance, and we describe ourselves as a change and improvement consultancy. And actually the word improvement is really important to us, isn't it?
Yes, that's our real big focus. I think we have a fundamental belief that you can change without improving, but you can't improve without change. So change is a necessity, but improvement is the thing that we actually want to achieve.
Yeah, as I always say, if you're implementing change and you're not achieving the improvement that you want to see, you're probably just moving the deck chairs around the deck.
Absolutely. So we have three offers now. Our core offer is bite-sized consultancy, and we say very much bite-sized because it's as little or as much as you can chew. So it's very bespoke for our clients.
So our bite-sized consultancy enables ambitious mid-sized organisations to really focus in on either an opportunity or a challenge that they've got in the business, and we bring that analytical approach to help them uncover what the solutions are. We also provide embedded resource solutions, or as Fran says, brilliant people.
Brilliant people, yeah. It's all about the people.
So brilliant people to implement the recommendations that we make. So following bite-sized consultancy, we'll quite often provide some embedded resource solutions or brilliant people to implement those recommendations. Some organisations come to us just for those brilliant people, but often it's following bite-sized consultancy.
And again, that's bespoke for our clients. So we're not a recruitment agency where we're bringing in freelancers to work full time for 6 months. It might be that they only need a little bit of a project manager or an analyst, for example. So again, we provide really good value because our clients are only paying for as much or as little as they need.
And all of our associates that we bring in are part of our recommended network. So they are brilliant people that we have worked with, and so we know that they're brilliant, or somebody that they recommend. So there's never more than 2 degrees of separation with the people that we bring into an organisation.
And it's really important that we match those people with our clients. So we don't just go, somebody's an analyst or a project manager, there's a need over there, that'll do. Actually, there's got to be that that matching of culture and ways of working, and so that's really important, so that those brilliant people can actually deliver value from day one.
Yeah, and we get consistent feedback that they do.
Yes, we do.
And then our third offer is our newest offer, which is the Business Ally programme, which we've been chatting with Andy and Chris about today. So this is specifically aimed at SMEs. In fact, it was developed as part of our networking conversations. So we would be having conversations with smaller organisations who would say, what you do sounds brilliant. We'd love to work with you, but we just don't have the budget or the headspace to be able to work with you on that bite-sized consultancy. And that's why we developed this programme, so that you're getting the upfront thinking time with the pre-workshop questionnaire and the validation conversation. You get a targeted half-day workshop, and then you get that ongoing support following the workshop to help to hold yourselves to account to be able to implement the plan.
It's really important for us that we can share our expertise, because we want to be the business ally of choice and help businesses at every stage of their evolution. So hopefully some of the businesses that we support through the Business Ally programme will go on to be bigger businesses and potentially even the unicorns of the future. You never know.
So probably helpful, Fran, if you can tell us who the Business Ally programme is for.
Yeah, so the Business Ally programme is aimed at small businesses. So that might be somebody who's just started up. It might be somebody who's been around a little bit longer and is looking to scale. Perhaps they've plateaued and think, actually, I just need help just kind of supercharging my business. But the important thing through everybody that we work with, all of our clients, whether small or very large, is that they're ambitious organisations and they want to grow. That's the golden thread.
Yeah.
You're the Duracell business.
Duracell business, yeah.
So
tell us a little bit about Greyhound IT.
So Greyhound IT came from me sat down with my wife, coming up with a conversation, thinking of a business name, and looking at my dog called Bonnie, who is a greyhound. Shocker about the name. And Greyhound IT came from that, and from that it came from fast and reliable support, because I like to fix things quickly and also be reliable for people.
Okay.
So what is it that you actually do for people who don't know?
So we normally work with SMB businesses who come to us saying they've got these issues with their computers. Can you sort it out for us?
SMB businesses?
Small, medium businesses.
Okay.
I mean, we used to look after residential, then we look after to businesses up to like 50 people. So we manage all their IT infrastructure, so computers, switches, routers. People will be scratching their head at that, saying, what's a switch? But anything that makes a business work for IT, we look after. But also, we don't just only look after and keep it running. We look at for the improvements that can be made. And through the improvements, we strongly believe the business becomes more profitable because people are becoming more efficient, they're getting stuff done quicker. And we just analyse the business, and we look for metrics in this from saying, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And then we ask people to come back to us saying, we've put this stuff in place for you. Have you noticed the improvement as your revenue streams gone up? And, I feel like that's what makes us a lot different, because we're not just focused on the IT. We actually care about the businesses we work for, because we want them to succeed, because if they succeed, they'll happily refer us on to other people, which then leads into our goal of becoming a trusted partner within Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Well, that's been a brilliant conversation. So thanks, Andy. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. You've been absolute stars.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.